cloud ready. What we're doing here is we're looking inside the software and trying to understand how ready are these applications to be continuously optimized to be cloud native and modernized to take advantage of the latest services available on the cloud. So if we drill into this area, this portfolio advisor is advising on cloud. And specifically what we're doing here is we are now segmenting the entire portfolio of 200 plus applications with a recommended optimization path for the cloud. Right? We're using a methodology similar to the 5 R's model, if you're familiar with that. And in this case, we did actually find some recommended applications, 22 of them, in fact, in that first box, to rehost them. Meaning, maybe these are applications that aren't going to be around much longer. You don't really need to invest that much in modifying them, but you do want to get them out of the data center, so you might rehost these. But we also found 128 applications where there's a good opportunity to refactor these and modernize them for cloud native. Refactoring is a modest level of change that would be needed to modernize these applications. So we've automatically identified, okay, here's 128 applications that aren't going to need that much work to truly modernize them and make them cloud native. The third category, re-architect, that's a much heavier lift. You're not just making some modest changes, you're actually re-architecting those systems. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but we found 20 applications where we're recommending that. Rebuild, that's pretty self-explanatory. There's major issues in these systems, there could be other reasons, but there's 14 applications where you're gonna wanna rebuild them as a suggested recommendation. And then finally, we found 5 that are probably good candidates for retirement. Maybe you can replace these with a SaaS alternative. They're not strategic to the organization. They're going to take a lot of work to truly modernize them. So here's an opportunity for maybe consolidation and cost savings as well, because you might have opportunities to retire some applications that aren't necessary. So let's take a closer look at what's going on here. So if I drill into this re-architect segment, I'm going to actually hover over one of these applications here. This one here. You'll see a little pop-up there when I hover over it. The name of the application is called Closure. That's just a fictitious name for purposes of the demo. But you might notice a few numbers there. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'll quickly interpret this for you. If we're just looking at how ready this application is to be cloud native, we'd see at the bottom there's a number there called roadblocks. There's 74 of them. That's the number of individual issues in the code of this application that are preventing it from truly becoming cloud native and deployed in a platform as a service environment. That's not actually a large number of roadblocks that need to be fixed. If I go up one, I'll see that it has a cloud-ready score. All of our scores are on a scale of 0 to 100. This one has a score of almost 61. It's actually not a bad score. So by itself, this looks like a really good refactor candidate. It's not going to need that much work to make it truly cloud-native. Maybe we refactor it. But then we start looking at other things going on inside of the engineering of this application. We're looking at things like the resiliency, the agility, the complexity of the software. This application also has pretty low scores when it comes to resiliency, agility, and elegance. A quick translation is, this is an application that's probably prone to production issues. It is hard to maintain and upgrade it, and it's written in a very complex manner, which means down the road, that complexity, in other words, technical debt, is going to come due. So the recommendation here is to not just refactor out those cloud native blockers or roadblocks, but to actually re-architect it and fix some of these resiliency, agility, complexity issues as part of the modernization. And that's why the recommendation is re-architect, not refactor. Just a simple example to show why the model is recommending things into different categories. Okay, let's go a little lower to actually see what's driving this. Okay, so this is all interesting at the portfolio level. I'm looking up, at the control tower, looking down. That's very nice, but maybe I want to get a little bit closer to the runway, so to speak, and see what's going on. So we're going to actually drill down. I'm going to pick one application here. You know what? We'll go into this refactor bucket, which is a little bit more interesting to see what's going on. And I'm going to pick one application here called Experience Sys here. And we're going to click on that. I'm actually going to leave the portfolio level and come down to this one application. There's a number of different insights available here, but I'm going to click over to this one tab called Cloud Ready Code Scan. So again, what's happening here is there's an analyzer looking through and understanding the source code, looking for specific patterns. In this case, the patterns translate to blockers to modernizing this software to be cloud native. If we find one of these blockers, we count it and we reduce the cloud ready score. If we don't find it, we increase the score. We're also looking for things we call boosters. These are good practices, things that are making the application more ready to be cloud native. That would also increase the score if we find it. So a simple example of how this works is, let's sort this by this roadblocks column here. This second one on the second row here, it found a pattern called persistent files performing file manipulation. We found it in the Java code. That's a very common practice for a Java application. But that's not going to work well in the cloud if you truly want to adopt platform as a service or be cloud native. So we found that pattern there. We counted it. We actually, if we come over to this roadblocks column here, we'll see the number 157. That means we found 157 occurrences of performing file manipulation in the code of this application. If I click on that, I'll see the location. So now I can tell my application owners, my development teams, where to go and fix these roadblocks. And we'll estimate the effort here that's going to be required. So a quick summary of what we just saw with that one row is it's going to take an estimated almost 5 days, 5 person days of effort if you wanted to remove all 157 occurrences of performing file manipulation inside the code of this application. And if I wanted to learn a little bit more, I could simply click on this question mark, and it'll give me access to knowledge base with information on how to address that particular roadblock, what it looks like if you're looking for it in the code, things of that nature, right? Finally, I'm just going to show one other example here. The intelligence coming out of the cast highlight control tower is also recommending what services you might want to adopt based on the cloud you're going to. So depending on, if you're going to AWS or Azure, Google Cloud, et cetera, it will automatically, based on the technical characteristics that it saw inside of the source code, recommend the cloud native services that you might want to consider taking advantage of once you modernize the software and deploy it up on one of these cloud providers. A very simple example of how software intelligence helps me build that roadmap to cloud native by automatically recommending the best optimization path, and then lets me drill down instantly into a single application and understand what exactly in the engineering and the coding of that application needs to change so that I could actually adopt truly cloud native for that system and take advantage of the true promise of the cloud.